Welcome back to Beyond the Buckets. Happy to have Doug Benton. Welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
You run NorCal Preps, and for people that don't know you, you follow the youth sports scene in the entire region of Northern California. And so it's going to be interesting to kind of turn the tables on you. You're always behind, either behind the computer or printing all the stories. So I'm excited to get your story.
Well, like I said, thanks for having me on. I've enjoyed the podcast that you've been posting, and looking forward to it.
Why don't you give everybody some context, maybe a little bit of background about you before we dive into all the topics that we want to discuss?
So I started, I've been around Northern California my whole life. Started with NorCal Preps in 2004 when Lorenzo Harris was running it. Lorenzo Harris was founded at the site and was kind of one of the first major players for online prep sports coverage. And kind of what NorCal Preps is with player rankings and scouting reports and recruiting coverage and things like that. So he gave me a chance when I was 17, and I worked for him for about 12 years, and then was able to take over the site from him, and been doing that for the last 4 years, and just really enjoy. I mean, it's high school sports is just really, it's something unique. It's being able to get 15, 16, 17, 18-year-olds to bond together for a common goal. There's new faces every year. A lot of times you have the same teams every year, but there are surprises too, and it's just something that's always changing. So it's something I've really grown to love as I've gotten into it, and looking forward to the next thing.
So you started NorCal Preps in 2004, you said, and that's actually when I started my coaching career, coaching JV basketball at Del Mar High School. And, the time really flies. And I've seen so much over that duration of time. Talk to me about what you've seen as far as in terms of how sports and just media and everything has really changed and evolved to this 24-hour cycle, even all the way down to the high school ranks.
Oh yeah, no, you're exactly right. It's a 24-hour cycle, and it's everywhere. I think some of the biggest changes is there's just the pool is bigger. Like there's not as many. There's more gatekeepers, if you would, of who can produce content, who can be out at games, what you can do at games, whether it be video, whether it be social media. When I started out, you play phone tag with people in the playoffs trying to figure out the score from somewhere else in NorCal. It's oh, my team won. Like, hey, did you get a read on this score from Santa Rosa? And you'd be trying to call someone in Santa Rosa. Now it's just it's all on Twitter. It's really easy at your fingertips. Like I said, video. Recruiting I think is really blown up. It's kind of in 2004 is already moving that way, but it's really now more of it's a mainstream topic now in high school sports. I mean, it's some of those changes are really good. Some of those changes are less good, but I think you just kind of have to keep on evolving. But I would say definitely social media and video and just more voices in the conversation.
I think and that's a very good perspective. Number one, I think competition is great, no matter where you're at, what field you're in. And for the longest time, there wasn't a whole lot of competition for NorCal Preps. There has been so many more outlets that have come to the forefront, specifically in Northern California. And I won't say any of the names, but there's some good publications that are out there doing good things and just trying to showcase. What do you think about, the new players that come in? NorCal Preps is probably like the creme de la creme of all of the media outlets for high school sports in this area. But what do you think about the new outlets? And they may be doing things a little bit different than you guys, but they're still trying to, showcase and platform athletes.
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, that's the end goal, I think, for why if you're in high school sports coverage for the right reasons, you want to be able to promote stories of high school athletes. You want to be able to help further their careers. So I think just having more voices in there, I think what you see now is, I mean, you're right. There's a ton of really good publications in Northern California. We're really blessed in this part of the country to have so much good high school sports coverage and so many people who work hard at it to provide, whether it be results or game stories or human interest stories or highlights. I mean, it's all part of the pie. Like I always say, like, you just want to make the pie as big as you can, because then everybody gets a slice. And if you're concerned about keeping the pie small because you're worried about it, then like your slice is gonna over time is gonna get smaller, and that doesn't help anybody.
For sure. What I found is, the people that I may be chasing as far as, programs or coaches where, I don't necessarily focus on them. I'm focusing on our process to get to that new height. And then if you are on top, there's been times where we've had really good teams and everybody's trying to knock us off. So I find motivation in both. I find motivation in the process to get up to that level. And then I also find motivation to, stay on top or stay relevant. Have you found that same kind of motivation in your space with your site as you see some of these others come into the market?
Oh, definitely. I think it's part of any industry that you want to compete in. It's you have your process, like you said. You can't just take something completely from somebody else because it may not fit your process or your environment. So, I've always tried to take a stance of you observe a lot, you read a lot, you figure hey, like someone's doing this, like could I incorporate that here? Hey, they're pushing the limits in this way. Could I do something similar? So yeah, I think it's really important to be open minded about what other people are doing. Just be aware of how someone else can achieve success, but also being true to who you are, who your team is, who your company is, and know that, because if you get away from that process, then there's no foundation and it starts falling apart.
For sure. One of the things that I admire about your profession is the ability to continually come out with content. Over the last year, I've been trying to, increase visibility on social media platforms. And one of the things that, people that run sites like yours or writers, they always have to continually put stuff out there. And so can you give everybody like an inside look of what a day, a week, a month, or a year looks like from behind the scenes? Because, from our perspective, we just see, all of the content that is actually produced. We don't see the hard work that goes into it. It's very similar to like being a basketball coach, where we practice really hard for so long and people only get to see the end product, but they don't really know all of the ingredients that go into making a really good Thanksgiving dinner or a really good article or a really good piece. So tell me about that.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I think it's, for us, and again, it's going to be different for everyone, but, we always try to keep a, kind of a look at the future of a normal season when there's games, kind of games that you want to get out to, games you want to see, games you want to get out to, games you want to watch on a stream. We're reading a lot because I think, it just increases knowledge. And like I mentioned before, there's so much good content in Northern California that if you're not taking advantage of reading it and staying up to date on it, then you're not doing it right. So yeah, there's a lot of reading and we're trying to plan ahead. Kind of, we're always kind of working on we have features that we do every week. There may be news stories in there that we throw in every couple of weeks, but always kind of having a plan. Basically, is what I go back to. Is this is who we are. This is what we do. You can tweak it now and then, like I said, when a story comes up or an event comes up, but we try to kind of stick to that plan and try to make sure that we're always as well informed as we can be and getting out as much as we can be.
Right. How many of there are you at NorCal Preps? Is there a full staff? Is it just you and a couple people? Some people maybe just see, you as the moderator on the site, but there's probably other people that play a big role in it. I know for me personally with Top Flight, there's so many other people that, make us as a program look good. Can the same be said for NorCal Preps?
Yeah, so I run it as an editor, but I mean we have a number of freelancers that we lean on for both content and just for information, because how the content we look to produce is a little different than a newspaper, because we have player rankings we produce, and so we're talking with coaches a bunch, we're talking with scouts that we employ that hey, you went out and saw these 3 tournaments, like tell me what you thought. Even if there are people who aren't necessarily writing for the site, they're people that we use for the site because like I said, it's about that information that you can never have enough information. It's probably the same thing as a coach, where when you're putting together a game plan, like, you can never have enough film to watch because there's always could be some stone unturned that you don't want to give up that advantage. So that's kind of how we operate, where we kind of have a network of freelancers that we lean on because we want to have as much information as we can for people on the site to read.
A two-part question. One, and I'll get to the second part in a little bit, but how often are you communicating with coaches and people in the industry, whether that be with high school or club? I've seen you at multiple events over the years, and you covering everything. So tell me what that's about, and just having really good relationships with coaches.
I mean, we try to be in contact every day. Yeah, in some way or another. Some days are busier than others, but yeah, I mean, it's coaches are I mentioned the word gatekeepers before, but I mean, they really are the gatekeeper for information. They know the players the best, they know the teams the best. They're extremely knowledgeable. So as much information as we can glean from them, as much information as they're willing to give out, we gladly take it, because it just helps in what we're doing, whether it's a player who is starting to emerge talent wise, or an injury, or a team that needs to be looked at. We try to be really open on, these are our opinions are, this is what we wrote, but we're willing to listen and be like, hey, we were wrong about this team or this player, and we need to change that because of the conversations we have. And you have to build those relationships, because I consider you a friend, but that's I can go to you for a question and get back real information. But if you don't have that relationship, then the chances of you getting real honest information go down.
Right. And I want to talk about player rankings, but you just mentioned something that kind of sparked my interest, and I want to double click. We met probably at an AAU basketball tournament where you might have come up to us after that, and that's one of the things I really miss, is being in the gym and just meeting different people. And this whole last year has just been really difficult for players, most importantly, and coaches secondarily, but just that relationship piece, and how you build a relationship is, you meet somebody for the first time, you may exchange contact information, and then it builds over time. And then, you start to earn each other's respect, based on the information that you may provide, or the information that, I could give you, or vice versa. And it's a two-way road. So I really respected our relationship over the long term. I've never, and this is what I want to ask you too about, I've never got on you if you didn't rank our team high or whatever. It's just, there's so much that goes into it, but what goes into the team rankings, what goes into the player rankings when you guys look at things? I know that people that don't know the WCAL, for instance, in basketball, and you do, but I'm saying at the state level, we'll have a whole bunch of teams. Like we went second in league the last 2 years behind Midi, and we were 500. But there'll be a team that we played 2 years in NorCal that went 12-0 in a league, that they just ran through everybody by 50 points. And so they'll get a higher seed, and then we might have to go play them because our record doesn't show that, we're not a 20-win, team at that point. Well, 6 of our losses might have come from, top 20 teams in the state. But what goes into your player rankings, and as well as team rankings?
Definitely. So I'll start with team. We try to, it's about having a history in the region, and just trying to be as well informed as you can. Like you said, you can't judge a record of a team from the WCAL versus a record from a league that is average or below average. They're just different. And so we try to look at the whole body of work, realizing that it's not just about the number of wins and the number of losses. It's about who you play, it's about who you beat, it's about who you lose to. You try to mold it as best you can. And some years it's really easy because it's the teams just line up really well, where team one's undefeated and team two's only lost to team one, and team three's got 2 losses. It's just really, so some years it really lines up well. Other years it's like, boy, how are we going to view this result? Or Valley Christians won 8 in a row, but they started the year 2-7 because they had an injured player, and stuff like that. So I mean, you try to weigh as much as you can. And that's where it comes into relationships with coaches. being able to kind of get a feel for their teams, watching games, and just trying to be as informed as you can about results. Like, a result comes in and it's, you know, team won, 60-50, and you go, oh, I thought they would win by more, but it's, you don't realize that in the fourth quarter the team came back and made it look a lot closer. So I mean, you just try to have as much information as you can, and it really comes down to like who you beat, who you lose to. I mean that's, yeah, it sounds, simple, but I mean that's just kind of how we try to do it. We don't try to overthink it with that, and we try to honor teams that play hard schedules, whether in the non-league or league or both.
Right. And the one thing I will say about you guys is you have a snapshot of like at the end of the season, you show what you guys thought were the ranked teams. And then, you also show what it ended up at the end of the season. I think that's a great way to kind of look back and reflect and say, hey, so many people, like if you're on television, you could say that, the Warriors will never, ever win a championship again. And then you could be the same person that also said the Warriors are the best team ever in that same year, but you never go back to reflect on what you previously said. But just like our clothes, we can also change our minds, and just the same thing, change your rankings with the teams. And that's one thing that I like about what you guys do is you guys always own up if you did miss something, or you as far as the teams go. So I've always appreciated that.
Well, thanks. Yeah. That was something we started a while ago, and yeah, it's a good exercise to kind of self assess yourself, and to see, like, why did we miss in these teams? Did we not, do enough research? Did we not account for the returners, or whatever it is? But yeah, I think it's always good to kind of own up. It's, in a selfish ways, it's nice to own up to your mistakes, but then you can also kind of own your victories in that way too.
Yeah.
And then I'll kind of tie back to the player rankings you asked about before. So for player rankings, we base off college potential, which is very so in some ways abstract thing, because it's you're trying to project something that's not there yet. But yeah, it comes out from going to watch a lot of AAU, a lot of high school, talking to a lot of coaches, both at the high school, club, and college level, and just trying to get a feel for how players stack up. And that's gonna be one too, where you may miss on a player because you saw her once and she looked okay, but there's 10 other games that she looked great, and you try to cover up blind spots where you can, but player evaluation is never 100%. If it was, you'd be employed by any school in the country.
Right, for sure. In your online forums, you have multiple different sports, but I would say probably football would be the leader as far as interactions with with the people, the subscribers on the site, and then boys basketball, girls basketball, and then probably baseball. Would you say that is pretty much accurate?
Yeah, I would say so. I think football is probably the most popular sport we have on the boards. And then boys and girls basketball kind of have their are right behind there. I think they kind of go back and forth of which one's the most popular. We have great communities for both, and then baseball would be fourth, but we also have a lot of really good posters on there that are kind of long-term investors in the sport. And so yeah, all of them kind of. I always say that each sport has kind of their own identity. Like they each have their own thing that makes them tick, whether it's one sport maybe cares more about the player rankings, one sport cares more about the team rankings, one sport wants to care about AU. Like they each kind of have their own little thing where you have your most passion, which I think is kind of fun to see.
Right. And how are you able to manage all the sports that go on? I mean, obviously, the three main sports, football, basketball, and baseball, are in different seasons. So is that how you're able to kind of compartmentalize it, or is it really difficult when they start to merge together? Like the end of the football season goes right into basketball, and then the end of basketball goes right into baseball. So how do you focus on, each sport?
Yeah, so that's how we kind of choose how to cover sports. We try to separate as best we can. But yeah, there are those times where it's that end of November and into December where you have football playoffs and all those great holiday tournaments in a normal year, and then for basketball in March where you're deep in NorCal and states, and baseball's ramping up with all their great non-leagues. And so there are definitely pockets of the season, and then in the summer where you have a lot of competing tournaments. So there are times you have to balance, and and we do the best we can to kind of hit as many things as we can. But yeah, it's for the most part, I think the sports kind of line up pretty well. But there are seasons where you just have to like, go. There's 7 days in a week, and you try to do as much as you can, and leave the rest.
Yeah. You've been around a lot of coaches in your tenure. What are some like hallmarks of really great coaches that you've seen in any sport, really? Because I'm fascinated by how people are able to sustain excellence for an extended period of time. If you think about any great business person, any great athlete, a Serena Williams, a LeBron, a Jordan, Derek Jeter, in any sport and or any walk of life, the the greatness is defined by doing it over and over and over consistently. What are some of the things that you picked up from some of the great coaches that you've had the opportunity to cover?
That's a great question. I would say, I mean, one of the best things I can say is that all the great coaches are really true to their personalities. Um, I've seen great coaches who are really mild mannered and even tempered. I've seen coaches who get really kind of animated on the sidelines, whether it's football, basketball, baseball. Whatever your personality is, you can't be fake because kids can see through fake. And so I think it's all about being able to teach and send a message out. So whatever your personality is, be able to own your personality and be able to teach and coach through. I think all great coaches kind of have a really good handle about who they are as a coach and as a teacher.
Yeah.
And I think great coaches just really embrace the grind. And I would say that's probably true for any industry, but like, I think when you see really top coaches, they're out scouting games, they're out doing extra things at practice. They're out watching AAU, or they're out coaching AAU because they care about their players getting better. They want to check in on their players. They want to check on other players. They want to check on, new things that this coach is running that they may want to implement. It's the idea of that they always want to constantly learn. So I guess that would be another thing, is that they're just learners. I feel like, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, it's the coaches that consistently win are the coaches that get the most out of the programs. You see them a lot at other games because, like I said, they're either scouting, they're just curious about that team playing, and they're always there's really no cap on how much they want to do because they just enjoy the grind of it.
Right. Um, managing the board that you do, you see a lot of different comments that come through. How are you able to like filter, and I guess filter isn't really the right word, but like, manage some of the negativity that is portrayed on the board? I feel like so many people, because you really can't see who they are, and just the same thing on, Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, you can say whatever you want, but if you had the opportunity to say that out in front of people, you probably wouldn't. Why do you think people are okay like hiding behind this screen name to put negative stuff out there about young people, because that's really all it's about.
I think it's just something that is in society now, unfortunately. Like you mentioned, it's whether it's the message boards, whether it's Twitter, whether it's Facebook. I think, you know, people are more, you know, free to say something when they think there's no consequences for it. And and that's a part that I think really hurts discourse. Uh, you want to be able to have a give and take. You want to be able to have disagreements. You want to be able to have a discussion about something maybe you and somebody else are both passionate about, but you want to be able to keep it respectful. You want to be able to keep it on point. You want to be able to keep it fact based. And so I mean, for us, like, we try to do that in the message boards. Like, I mean, you can't control the way someone wants to communicate for the most part. I mean, they're going to do what they're going to do, and you try to encourage good conversation and then discourage the bad ones. And there are certain times where we win that battle, there's certain times we don't, but we try to, that's kind of our aim, is we try to encourage the really good discussions. And I know on the girls basketball board, we have a number of coaches on there, and I think it was over the summer, there's a great thread that we had. It was about I think it was help side defense, about how you help against a 3-point shooter. And there's like 60 or 70 comments in that thing, and a bunch of really good coaches on there just going back and forth about their rules for defense. And that's stuff that you love to see on there. And I mean, that was one that I really enjoyed following. So that would be an example of trying to encourage really good conversation.
Right. No, I remember that thread, and pretty good comments from really some people that have been on this podcast actually as well. Just kind of opens your mind, because the NBA does not help off the strong side corner, but in college, a lot of the times you don't. So does that trickle down to what we're doing at the high school level? And people would make, their comments. And the good thing is nobody's really wrong. If you help off the ball side corner or not, you're not really wrong. It's just your preference. And like you mentioned, the people that, are putting the work in and solidifying, their ideals about how their team should be playing is the most important thing. So, I never try to look down upon anybody doing it a certain way. Like, there's successful coaches that wouldn't do anything that I do. And there's a lot of successful coaches that would do a lot of things that I do. But I think it's just important, like you talked about, just being self-aware of who you are and, trying to accomplish the goals that you've set for your team, and not really worried about the outside. And it's at the end of the day, it's about getting the best out of your players. And I think that goes a long way.
Definitely. Yeah, I think it's just, I've always thought that, process over results, where you want to have a good process, whether it's the writing or whether it's coaching or anything else. Like, you want to, if your process is sound, then, ideally, if your process is sound, then the results are going to come. And if you're worried about results, you're going to be chasing those the whole time. And so, like, if we get back to the shooting thing, where, like, if you have a rule and for some reason the player made 4 threes against it, doesn't mean it's a bad rule. Just the player made 4 threes that game. And if you believe in the process, you just got to stick with it.
For sure. I remember one game, it was a league game, and it was at our home versus Sacred Heart Cathedral, and we were down 2, and we get the last shot, and our point guard drives it, probably has a contested layup, but she kicked it out to one of the best shooters in the section, and she shot it, and the ball literally went halfway in and halfway out. And she looked at me, and I wasn't upset at all, because the score takes care of itself, just like Bill Walsh always used to preach. The ball could have went in, it didn't go in, but at the end of the day, you got to live with whatever the result is. And I think that's important for coaches to understand, is like, if you're in a zone and they hit 4 threes, well, they just hit 4 threes. It doesn't mean that it was a bad zone. Sometimes, there's just better offense.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about club basketball. I've got 2 feet in on both sides of club basketball and high school basketball, and have been for a long time. And there's some things that I really enjoy about club basketball. There's other things that I don't enjoy so much. We could take this conversation in many different directions, but I want to see where you want to steer the car as far as club basketball. I'm just going to throw the term out there, and you can go wherever, and we can see where we end up.
Yeah, you hit it on the head. You can go a lot of different ways with it, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it too, Chris. Like you said, you're in club and high school, so you have a great perspective on both ends of it. For club, I think it's good and bad with it. Same as high school, where I think in club you can really get kind of meaningful competition that's going to kind of be able to see if you can go play in college. Maybe you're a post. You have to play post in high school because you're the post in your high school team, but maybe you're more of a 2-3, and you can go play against other 2-3s that are potential college players, and kind of see how you stack up, see where you need to improve. Have the chance to expand your game, play in a different role than you would have in high school, play with better players. And so I think all those things are important. It's where college coaches are at for the most part. So, I think if you want to play in college, you have to be able to get out there and play in front of coaches, because they're at the end of the day, they're the ones who are going to decide that. But with club, like, I think there also are there can be teams that I think oversell and overpromise to kids and put them in a bad spot. I think there are programs that say they're going to get on front coaches who don't. We'll still talk about this. One of the tough things of this past year is that with the loss of the viewing periods, but you only have limited viewing periods, and so I think as club basketball, like, that's you really have to take advantage of in the programs that don't. I think really that say they will but don't really kind of hurt the overall landscape of club basketball, because it's, a few bad apples is going to make the whole thing look bad when maybe it really isn't.
For sure. Yeah, you make some really great points as far as club basketball, over promising and not delivering on the things that they talk about. At the end of the day, for the programs that I run, first and foremost, I want the kids to first have fun and enjoy themselves and their experience within the program. And this is speaking at the youth level specifically, but even in high school. And then, secondarily, do they get better at basketball? Do they learn the game? Can they implement these concepts when they go back to their school teams or high school? That's important. And then, there's this really big push now for elite high level AAU, where it's the shoe companies that are running it. And for the longest time, I mean, we've never had a shoe contract for Top Flight. We did the Tyler Johnson Elite thing for a couple of years, and that was really cool. We helped some kids, get looked at and opportunities. But I've just seen a whole shift to where, and that's one of the reasons why we partnered up with West Coast Elite for the Under Armour and the UAA and that sort of thing. So because for me, I just wanted to give our kids a platform if they wanted to go through that. I saw our program as, trying to compete against all of these, shoe brand teams. And it's like, fine. Or we can give them an option, in this area to still be able to do that. Because it's, we never got into it. We got into it just because we like coaching kids in basketball. And, when you start going up to those elite levels, things really change. And, scholarships at a premium. I always tell kids or parents really, like, we're not guaranteeing anything for your son or daughter. There's it's a very unlikely thing that your kid is going to get a college scholarship to a major D1 or even a Division I, period. But the opportunity to continue to play at the next level is what your goal is going to be. Everybody has this goal of going Division I. Well, I use this on a previous podcast, but in the Silicon Valley, there's so many successful people, millionaires that nothing about, but they're extremely successful because they think they're successful in their own mind, and their track record speaks for that. Well, at the same time, if you play basketball or football or baseball or any sport in college, like that is really, really good, because most of the kids that play will never end up suiting up for a college team. It's just not going to happen for, well over 90%. But those 10% of kids that end up having an opportunity in whatever sport that they play to play in college is elite. And that's what the goal should be if they want to continue playing, not necessarily where they're at. Because you've seen it so many times where they'll be like, oh, where is this kid? Oh, they went here, then they went here, then they went here. And then, you don't even know where they end up. Because there's so many people that think that they're going to benefit off of it, and it's not really benefiting the kid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I think it's, if I could wave a magic wand and change something about club basketball or club sports in general, it would just be a more transparent environment. Whether it's, because I think there is value to saying that, hey, we're gonna get together and we want to have fun, we want to develop, send you back to high school as a better player. Like, if that's what someone wants to do, I think that's a success. But it's just playing elite AAU doesn't mean you're guaranteed a scholarship.
Right.
And playing independent doesn't mean that you can't go mid to high D1. Like, it's so I think there just has to be if we give more transparency of this is what a club is about, this is what a player is looking for, and be able to kind of all work together. And I think it would improve things a great deal. But yeah, there are many roads you can take to playing club basketball. And then if you get the opportunity to play in college, whether it's D1 or even D2 or another level, I always say one of the best things I did unintentionally was I went to Chico State. I wrote for the student paper. I covered 2 years of the CC2A, and it was such a good level of basketball that you
Mhm.
come back and you go, it just changed my eyes of saying, hey, that player I thought could go D2, but like I watched D2 for 2 whole seasons, and that may be a stretch because it's a really good level of basketball. And so I think that would be, if you're interested in playing college sports, like watch as much college sports as you can at multiple levels, because even D2, D3, and AIA, there's some really good playing out there.
Definitely. People don't really understand that, like you mentioned. It's you know, there's not much difference other than the athleticism and size. A really good Division II guard can do well in Division I. That's happened over and over again. Was the kid from Miami. I mean, he was a Division III player before he went to Michigan.
Yep.
Right? And then all of a sudden, he's starting in the NBA finals. So there's some really good basketball, and the major difference is athleticism and size.
Yep, definitely.
What's next for NorCal Preps? Are you guys cooking up anything as far as like just any new ideas, things like to help benefit players more, or just showcase them?
So I mean, right now we've all kind of had to hit the pause a little bit with what 2020 was. I mean, some things we had in the works had to be paused, but I mean, we're looking to expand coverage for junior college. I think that's that's another level. I think people don't understand the level of play, especially the maturity of it, where you could be playing against, especially on the boys side, 24, 25-year-olds sometimes. And we want to expand coverage of junior college. We want to make the player ranks, I think more user friendly, where there's more notes, just a more round picture for a player that a player could send off to a school, just with more information. So we're looking kind of just what we do, but just looking to expand it. So right now everyone's kind of in a sprint with football back and baseball back this week, and basketball maybe coming back in April. But we're looking to down the road to add more JUCO, and then just kind of continuing to enhance player rankings, so that can really be a tool for both our readers of the site, but also players to use as they market themselves, and how we can market them.
Yeah. Well, that's really cool. I was a junior college product myself, and you don't always get that same exposure. So I think that's a really great idea. What other things? Obviously, it's been really tough to come up with probably different pieces throughout the pandemic. Just I wouldn't have started this podcast if it wasn't for the pandemic, because I needed to do something and I wanted to continue to grow and learn. But what have you guys been doing throughout this whole process, and how have you been able to shift and pivot your business model to still maintain?
So I mean we kind of closed out the 2019-2020 season, because you still had that basketball almost got completed, so you still had all the postseason stuff for that, and then you had updating player rankings, and then going to summer there, even in the summer there were events. I mean, there were open runs, there were tournaments, there were things like that going on that were sometimes publicized, sometimes not. I mean, we tried to get out for events, we tried to stay up on recruiting news. We kind of dove back into kind of alumni watch, kind of looking at the college game and seeing hey, remember this player who was an old NorCal player 2 years ago? They're now at St. Mary's doing really well, or they're playing for Cal and doing well. So we kind of we did more of that. Try to stay up to date on all the changes that were happening with sports. There were a lot of different updates, and again, that was just doing our work on it, reading. There's a ton of great coverage on that too, and so yeah, we just kind of trying to keep people informed, keep people engaged. We did, like I said, we did a lot more college, and then just trying to keep our player rankings as fresh as we could, but the evaluation for those took a different turn, because there was less basketball to watch. You watched as much as you could, and then really leaned on your sources, which goes back to what we talked about before of when you have those relationships is when you can call up for stuff like that.
Good. What is your expectation for the next year as far as like high school sports goes? it's obviously, I think we'll probably get more back to normal next year. This year definitely was not normal. Football in March and April is different. Basketball, high school basketball in April and May and possibly June is just different. And obviously the spring sports are still the same, but they missed last year. So where do you see high school sports going for the next calendar year?
I agree with you. I think when we get to August, we'll be, I hate to say the word normal, but I think we will get pretty close to normal. I think, we'll be able to have a normal season. I think we'll be able to have playoffs. It'll be interesting to see kind of scheduling of both whether teams, how far teams can schedule, and how like distance wise, and then also just funds. I think everyone's going to be trying to fundraise and doing all that stuff to kind of make this happen. That's something I think behind the scenes of high school sports that most people don't see, that it takes a lot of work to kind of plan these big trips to games or tournaments. And so I'm kind of curious to how the schedules look. I think for players it'll be really interesting to kind of see what happens with this 2021 class moving on, because there's going to be a log jam in college rosters. 22s I think will fill the log jam as well, probably definitely not as much as the 21s, but kind of how their decisions are shaped. And then it'll be a sprint for those 22s, because you're missing a lot of what is usually a key junior year to get you on those watch lists and get you on those things. I mean, I think next season you could see a lot more unsigned seniors trying to use a big year to kind of find their home.
For sure. You mentioned it, but yeah, kids, if you can have an opportunity to commit early, that would be some really good advice to use. Because there is going to be a huge log jam. All of the college players get this year back. And so, if they were a freshman last year, they get to repeat their freshman year. There was kids that entered college early and they get to repeat that year. And then, that doesn't, and for like a junior, they may have completed school already and then they can transfer. San Jose State's whole, my buddy coaches over there, and their whole roster is going to be different next year because they're getting grad transfers and stuff like that. So it's really sticky. I just wish the best for all the players, and somehow it's going to sort itself out. But like you said, it's going to be a logjam for at least a year, maybe two.
Yeah, I think this year especially is I think you really want to find out kind of what relationships you have with coaches. In terms of the student athletes, is you want to go to a school where you have really good relationships. You want to go to a school you really like, and those are kind of things I think get preached about a lot. But this for 21s and 22s, I think, and especially those two classes, it's really going to be important. Like, you really want to be able to know what the roster is going to look like. You really want to be able to trust your coaches and be able to go to a place that you like, and not just not try to go for a name, because the roster turnover is just going to be insane. And so you want to go to a place that you like more than just the name.
Definitely. Well, this is the plug. Well, two things. One, who should come on the show? And before you say, you have to make sure that you come up with the connection. So that would be one. And then plug anything and everything that you have going on.
So I'll give two names. One coach, I guess they're both coaches. It's Leroy Hurt, runs Cal Ballers and coaches Oakland Tech. Leroy is one of my best friends in the coaching community. Just a great guy with a great story. Does a ton for kids, and has really built Oakland Tech up. I mean, they were going to play for a second straight state title last year before things shut down. So, I mean, the way he's really built that program up, and then the history that he has with the Ballers, and then Chris Romer over at Lincoln High School in Stockton, another guy's really built up his program. They were looking at a really strong team this year, and a guy who's just super well connected along the West Coast for recruiting. Goes out and sees a ton of players, and just has plenty of stories to tell. So those would be the two I would recommend.
Those are good ones. Nobody has brought those guys up. I'm actually I haven't announced it yet, but I'll announce it here that I'm going to most likely have all of the WCAL coaches I've already had a few on obviously already, but I want them all, and then I'll drop them all right before our league starts, if we start this year. So I'm looking forward to that because there's some really great minds.
Oh, yeah.
I got Patrick Snyder coming on in a week or so that'll be fun. So, and then plug anything that you got going on.
Yeah, so I would say like if you haven't been to our site yet, it's norcalpreps.com. We do the team rankings for Northern California. We do player rankings for boys basketball, girls basketball, and football. We usually rank out 2 or 3 classes at a time. We do team features. We have a message board community that is just kind of fun to kind of kick ideas around on. And so I would just say, if you're looking for high school coverage, we have a lot of good stuff right now. We're in the middle of kind of updating our basketball rankings. Finished 21 and 22 for boys, and we're going to start girls in a couple weeks. So this is a great time to kind of look at the site, kind of search around, and if you're interested, be able to subscribe. And we'd love to have you.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Beyond the Buckets podcast. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and share the show with your friends. And until next time, take care.